Jams, jams, jams. Picture books and jams. Welcome, everybody, to PBJamz. Music and picture books. What a perfect sandwich. Squish them all together. What a yummy snack.
Good morning or afternoon or evening, whenever you're joining us, PB Peeps. For me, it's kind of morning, mid-morning, and I am super excited to be here with Ashley Belote, author and illustrator of this beautiful book, Listen Up, Louella. And I was lucky enough, Ashley's the North Carolina author. You know, I get excited when I get to have my Carolina peeps on. But I met Ashley back at our SCBWI conference in the fall of last year, and got my very own copy of Listen Up, Louella. And as I was looking through, I'm like, wait, it's a PBJam. And so she was kind enough to come and join us for an episode. So we're going to dig in and talk about Louella and music and author illustrator insight and all those good things. So Ashley, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to share all things Listen Up Louella with everyone.
She is such a fun character. I think the overachiever in all of us can relate to Louella.
Oh, yes. You know, there's a little bit of that in all of us, for better and also sometimes for worse, but we just have to learn, how to balance the good with the bad sometimes. And, Luella does learn that, but it is a process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could definitely relate to Louella as I was reading. So I was like, oh, wait now.
Yeah.
She's super fun though. She's a very endearing character. So talk to us about the inspiration. Where did Luella come from? And then maybe a little about the writing process itself.
Sure. So Luella started out as just an elephant character that I had in my sketchbook. She kept popping up in my sketchbook. And this was starting back when I was really getting heavy into illustrating my own writing. I come from a background of solely illustration, illustrating other people's stories. I've always had my own stories, but I just never felt confident enough in my writing, I guess, to share it with anyone. This is a very subjective business. It takes a lot. I admire everyone who goes to a critique group meeting, because even if you've done it over and over again, it's still a little bit hard to share your work sometimes. And, it just takes that push that we all need sometimes, just to really, have confidence in ourselves, have faith in our work, and to know that, yes, there's going to be some criticism, but there's also going to be some praise for certain things. So it's just learning to take the good, kind of like Luella does, take the good and the bad, and make something beautiful from those comments. So I had been writing stories for a while. I was a creative writing minor in college, so I've always kind of written on the side and just kind of tucked my stories away and worked on other people's work, because I always felt so drawn towards what other people imagined for stories, and I loved bringing visuals to life with those words. So I had written a few of my own stories, and I had started to draw some of my own characters just for fun, and that could potentially turn into something later on. And Luella just kept coming up in my sketchbook. And I had worked on Frankenslime. That was my first book in this world. And the editor of Frankenslime was so lovely and amazing to work with. And just the whole Firewall and Friends team in general, they were so great. I learned a ton working with them. So I had worked on Frankenslime, and I had worked on Slime at this point, and learned so much. And this character kept coming up, and I finally had a story for this character. I wanted to create a character who had a big personality, but was also kind of physically demanding in spreads. And an elephant is just a big animal. And regardless of where they are, in nature or in a picture, your eye is immediately drawn to them, because they are fascinating to look at, and they're so much fun to draw. I really enjoy drawing curved lines. And so, like, their trunk, I love drawing her trunk, and her ears are beautiful. Like, oh my gosh, that is just something that I've always gravitated towards in artwork in general, or those types of lines. So I had this character and I had this story about a character who has this big personality and just wants to be involved. I was kind of the opposite of that as a kid, which I think is a strength of this story, that, I'm writing this from a different perspective, where I would be the one who would let somebody cut in front of me in line and not say anything. I was on the shyer side, and I'm not a confrontational person at all. And so I wanted to, I wanted to kind of explore that experience of someone who just wants to be involved in everything. She has serious FOMO. She cannot miss out on anything. She has got to be where the action is at all times. And so this character, I felt like, had that type of personality for this story. I had done a lot of school visits with Frankenslime, and a lot of the teachers focused on listening. Before I started, they said, now we're going to use our listening ears. And that is such a huge thing. And, adults sometimes can use this advice too. I know there's been times where I haven't been the best listener either, but it's something really important beyond just, control in a classroom, having a group of kids listen, but it really makes your life better if you stop and listen and you're not just waiting to talk. And that's something that I feel like if you want to be successful in life, you've got to stop and you've got to listen, actually listen to what other people are telling you and saying to you, so that you can, create an actual like formulated response. So to make a book with that type of lesson with this character that I had been working on kind of on the side, it was a perfect marriage of all these concepts coming together, and pitched it to the editor who I had, worked with on Frankenslime and Valenslime, and she really liked it. And it kind of went through a few different revisions. Luella had a different name for a while. But then it all just kind of came together in a really lovely and exciting way for me. So
nice. Love it. It is such a fun book. And like I said, she is a very endearing, even though she is very demanding as a personality and as a physical presence, like you said, but she also just this joie de vivre that she has, this gusto of, like you said, she doesn't want to miss out on anything. And so she just brings such a great energy, I think, to the story. So yeah, it's super fun. So talk to us about the part that, so as I was reading through at the conference, and I go, wait, this is a PBJamz. Let's talk about the music in this story.
Yes, so I have the spread open. So the gist of the story is Luella is heading to Roar Scout Camp. And when you go to camp, you do lots of fun and different activities. And one of those is make music. So that's one of Luella's favorite parts of Roar Scout Camp, is to make music. So there she is, but Luella is not sharing. She is using all the instruments. If you can see, she is multitasking like a champ. And her little animal friends, there's no instruments left. Oh no. So I feel like I wanted to include some musical instruments in here because there are a lot of artistic kids out there, and there's a lot of sporty kids. There's a lot of reserve. There's so many different types of kids. So I wanted an array of activities. So we have art, we have music, we have engineering because they build forts. We have canoeing, some sportier things to do. So I wanted a variety of activities. And I feel like sometimes when you think of camp, or when you think of kids doing things in big groups, art kind of gets left out and music kind of gets left out when you're thinking about these things. So I wanted to include those because when I was in school, I loved music class and I loved art class. I loved all those special things that we got to do. So plus I wanted to include music because the overarching theme of Luella is listening. And that is a huge part of music. And I am unfortunately not musically talented. I enjoy it from a viewer perspective. But I loved music class because it let us experiment without any fear. None of us knew how to play the guitar, but we all got to try. None of us knew anything. We didn't know how to read music. We didn't know any of those things, but we got to learn together. And I think that too is something that you can draw back to listening. is learning together. If you listen, then you can all learn together. And that's something that I really wanted to kind of hit home with readers. You know, I want this book to be able to be used in classrooms, regardless of what the subject is. So that's the other reason I wanted to include a lot of things. You know, you could easily use this in music class. There's a lot of different instruments. There's also a stage performance in here. So yeah, so there's lots of different artsy avenues presented in this. And but again, it all goes back to listening. You've got to be able to listen to do anything like this. So that's really why I wanted to include it. But like I said, I appreciate music from a viewer perspective and really admire people who are talented in that way. So I was excited to be able to include it.
Yeah, it's a big part. And I love the stage scene toward the end. Yeah, it's super super fun. And the colors just, I mean, so, and that kind of leads me to my next question as I'm thinking about just the vivacity of the colors in this book, and the color palette that you chose and the energy that the illustrations bring. So from an author illustrator perspective, I don't always get author illustrators on, and so I love to pick your brains when you're here about what that process is like. And I think it's so interesting to hear you talk about, so in the beginning, even though you were always a writer, but your art kind of took the forefront.
Yes.
And so the illustrations for this book, obviously, in at least in part, at least Louella's character came first. But from that perspective of an author illustrator, what insight can you give us as maybe writers only, or maybe author illustrators that are in the audience as well, for crafting our own work?
Yes. So I know for me, you know, we all have our own artistic process. So, you know, different things are going to work for different people. For me personally, what really works is I have got to see a character before I can write about something that they're doing.
Mm.
Even in my creative writing classes, you know, I would have a really solid visual of a space or of a character or something. If I wasn't drawing it per se, I had a very clear idea of it in my mind visually. So when I started, you know, writing children's books, I have to have a character to look at. I'm a very visual person. I'm a visual learner. It's really hard for me to learn something without seeing it. And I was not a great math kid, you know, but I could memorize visual things that would help me learn different ways to achieve success. And there's a lot of people out there like that. Even if you're not artistic, sometimes you just learn by visuals. So for me, being inspired really comes from images. So I would say if you are looking for inspiration, start with some pictures. You know, I think it's really important to have not necessarily a vision board, but something like a vision board where you just have, you know, a place where you put all of the things that inspire you visually together. I love books, obviously. I get inspired by books, not necessarily like what they're about or even the art, just like holding books. I just love books. You know, just surround yourself by things that make you happy and inspired, and that will make you feel comfortable, and that will put you in a healthy creative space. When I did start writing Louella and my subsequent stories after that, you know, I come up with a character concept and I'll write a little bit. Then I'll kind of take a break and I'll go back to drawing, and I'll say, what would I just like to draw right now? I want to draw Louella canoeing. Okay, that's cool. I'll use random word generators sometimes. And if I'm stuck or just need, you know, some new inspiration, I'll use a random word generator. So I have my character in my mind already. So Louella, random word generator, music. Okay, I'll draw Louella making music. You know what I mean? It's just a way for you to kind of get out of your own head, because we can all get trapped in here sometimes, you know. And we love being trapped in here, but sometimes you've just got to be able to, like, you know, break out of this cycle, because we kind of start to think about the same things over, you know, we are really creatures of habit. And we have comfort zones. You know, I love to draw animals. So every time I think of a character for a story, it's immediately an animal. And I have since tried to break through that and try to make a few kid characters, which I fortunately have been able to do. But yeah, so I will ping pong. I'll go back and forth. I'll draw a little bit and then I'll write a little bit. Oftentimes I will let my drawing inspire the writing, I think more so than the other way around. But there are those wonderful moments where you're writing and you just flow, it is just coming out. And then you're like, okay, well, I can make a picture about that later. And then you just keep drawing and you just keep writing. But the same thing happens with drawing, like I was drawing, when I was trying to think of the camp activities, I referenced a few, referencing your own experiences is also really good. Anytime you can add some personal touches to what you're doing, I think is awesome, because nobody has the exact same experiences as you have had. So, I thought about the things that I liked to do at camp, not the things I did not like to do at camp, because we all have our favorite activities and then the activities that we're not too thrilled about, So since this was my book, I was only putting in things that I like to do, which I think was cool.
Writer's prerogative, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's somewhat autobiographical. I think that we all put some of ourselves though into our characters. So yeah, I really am inspired by images and, the back and forthness. If you're not an illustrator, that is also totally fine. I still think that you can be inspired visually.
Yes.
You just don't relay your imagination through visuals. You just do it through words, which is just fine. You are creating an image, but you're crafting it with words for the imagination to put together versus actually drawing it out. Again, totally fine. So yeah, surround yourself by images of things that inspire you. Visuals, we are a visual culture. We really are, TV, video games, cereal boxes, everything has art, and it's kind of a neat place to be right now. It's really neat because you can find inspiration in the least likely places. I got a picture book idea once. I was deleting some emails, and sometimes you click on, if you're like deleting a bunch of them and you accidentally click on one and it opens it by mistake. And so I did that, and I was like, okay, so this image popped up and I had looked away real quick and I thought that it looked like something that it wasn't. Like it was some type of advertisement, and I had just glanced at it really quickly and looked away and looked back, and it wasn't what I thought it was, but I was like, man, that would be a great book. So, it's like, the least likely places, inspiration can strike. So always be on the lookout for a great idea. Don't try to force them. I think that's where you can get caught up too. Like you see other people posting about these ideas or sharing these ideas. You're like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with a great idea right now. That's not going to work. Just stop putting pressure on yourself. That's something that we all have problems with. It's, I do it every single day. It's like, oh, you have to do this right now. It's like, okay, well, just, take a step back and, let some inspiration come to you naturally. But yeah, putting up visuals and keeping an open mind.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I know when we do Story Storm every year, and probably most of you out there are familiar, but if you're not, in January, Tara Lazar hosts this month-long idea frenzy, really. And she has lovely people like Ashley. You've been on at least 2 years, right?
Yeah. Well, I've done it every year for, I think, about 4 years. And I did get to make a post about it right after Frankenslime's cover reveal. It was a few months. It was in like October of that year. And I was able to do a Story Storm post in January. So it was really great.
Yeah, and it's fabulous. And I find the ones that I gravitate most toward and get the most ideas from are those visual ones. Like look, and in fact, the one that you just mentioned about your email, that was actually one of the ones this year somebody had posted. I don't remember who it was, but they posted, look at your email, your spam email, and just kind of look through those as you're deleting them. And specifically, as you're deleting them, look and see. And I actually got an idea that day from some emails that I was, getting rid of. And, just Twitter. I've gotten so many good ideas just from Twitter feed and the illustrations or the, photographs that people post. I have one that I'm super excited to write that actually came from that. It was from the news. I've had a few that way. So, and your post from maybe year before last with the non-dominant hand and the
Yeah.
large drawing. Yeah, so I haven't written that book yet, but I did get a great idea from your post at that time. So, and I love Spring Fling Kidlit for that same reason. Like, it's inspired by a GIF. You know, you got to find a GIF and then you use that to inspire and create your story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those are all great ways to do it. And it is true that it happens when you least expect it, you know? So that's why, like, I have a little notebook in
Yep.
like every room of the house, in the car, everywhere. And like, you get these like great ideas, you know, when you're like grocery shopping and you're like going down the aisle and you're like, oh my gosh, I have ideas. Like, anybody have a piece of paper and a pencil? I have a great idea. I'm just gonna write it down. So
Yeah.
always have something with you. You can write it, you know, like on your phone. See, I
Yeah.
forget that. I'm so old fashioned in that way. I hate taking notes on my phone and stuff like that. I love to just like write things down. So anytime I have to do an idea on my phone, I'll like email it to myself. And then as soon as I get home, I'll just like jot it down real quick. It makes me feel like it's more real if it's like
Official.
written down.
It's official now. It's written in ink
Yeah.
with pencil.
Yeah.
I do keep them on my phone because that's one thing I usually do have with me, even if I do, but I
Right.
do keep a notebook in my purse. So yeah, being ready, and like you, not only being open-minded, but being ready to record those ideas when they do come to you in whatever way is comfortable for you, because they do come at really odd times.
I do.
Sometimes. And if you don't have anything with you, you know, just try to keep it in your head until you can get somewhere and make it official. But yeah, visuals are great. And I'm sure not everybody's that way. I mean, I'm no artist. Like, I have none of that. My sister got all that talent. But I do find myself very, very inspired by visual visual yeah, I can't think of my word, but anyway, yeah, visual things inspire me. So yeah, it's a great way for us non-author illustrators, us non-artists, to still work that in. Yeah, great tips. Well, talk to us, Ashley, about what's coming down the pipeline. What's next? What are you working on? What are you excited about?
I'm
That you can
excited.
share.
Yes, I'm excited about so many things. Oh my gosh, I can hardly wait. So you know, Luella was my first author illustrator picture book, which makes it very special to me. It makes me like, I'm not a very overtly emotional person, like especially in public, but it makes me like almost like teary-eyed to think about her, because it like, I feel like she was learning along with me. My characters really become my friends. And I'm
Yeah.
almost sad when a book is done. Like, I was so sad when Frankenstein was done. Oh my gosh. I still have it. I have it here too. I just love my Frankenstein. You know, they become your friends. You spend so much time with them. Like, they
Yeah.
stay up late with me. They get up early with me. They go on trips with me. They do everything that I want to do. And that's why they're my best friends. They just always do the exact same thing that I want to do. And, you know, because of that, I feel so blessed to get to do this as a job. I just cannot even tell you what a dream come true all of this is, to be able to make to think of something in your imagination and then have something be manifested from that is just a miracle. Like, it is so special. And, you know, it's so much work. And, you know, I've wanted to do this my entire life. There is not a time in my life where I can remember not wanting to just draw for a living. So I feel so blessed to get to do this and share my books with everybody. So my next fun things that are coming up, I've got a new book coming out with Random House later this year called Witch and Wombat. This is not the real book. This is an F&G, which was really fun to get. It's a called Fold It and Gather. It is like a proof of the book that you get before the actual book itself comes out. So this will be out on the 4th of July, just in time to stock all the stores with it for the fall, for Halloween. I will be doing a lot with it this fall, so I'm excited about that. Next year, I have 2 books coming out in 2024. One also with Fievel and Friends, with like the same editor that I worked with Luella on. So that one is called Don't Wash Winston, and it will be out next next year. And I have a second book with Random House. It's the same editorial team with Witch and Wombat, called Sheepwrecked, which is about pirate sheep who get stranded on a desert island. So I'm very excited about
I
that
love
too.
it. I love it. Shipwrecked. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So it's all of this, you put so much of your personality into and your personal experiences into. And that's why books are so great, because they're all different. Every book is so different. And all of the creators, we're all different. And it's just a really fun business to be in. So I'm very excited about everything. But we'll always have obviously a special place for Frankenslime and for Luella. And just you learn something new with every project. And you just, every experience and every book is different. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. That's terrific. And you guys, if you are local viewers, in the fall, Ashley's going to be here at Country Corners Farm, which is my home, and she's going to be coming to do an author visit and a book signing. So if you're a Carolina peep and you want to come hang out with us, just stay tuned and I will share all that fun info out. And Ashley's all over the Carolinas. She's always doing something fun. When Franken slime and Valen slime came out, she was making slime and doing visits all over the place. And yeah, she does so many fun things. So watch out for her. And I'm going to link all of her information down below. So, and we're going to talk more in the blog post itself about some of those teacher tips that Ashley was talking about. This book literally, yes, could be used in every single class. There's great language arts stuff. There's great music stuff. There's, of course, art. There's so many ways that you could use it. So I'm going to share out some ideas. Ashley's got a little educator guide that we're going to link up down below also. And she's giving away a free copy. So make sure you leave a comment on the blog post and we'll put you in a little drawing, and she'll send a lovely, your very own copy of Luella out after the episode has aired for a couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. We'll be sharing it out on Twitter and all the things. And I always like to mention when I remember to do this, that there's so many great ways that you can support the authors that come on PBJamz and all the others too. Not every book has music, but all the authors deserve lots of accolades and praise. And there's a few great and easy and inexpensive ways to do that. Of course, you can buy their books and they want you to. And this book is so beautiful. And the colors are phenomenal. The energy level is fantastic. You really do want this book. I know I say that often, but you really do. You really do. It's so fun. But there's also other ways that you can do. If you don't have it in the budget, check it out from your library, of course. Request it at your library if it's not there. Be sure to leave reviews on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Goodreads, all the places where you can leave those reviews, and share it out on social media. Share it with your friends by word of mouth, your mom friends, your teacher friends, your music teacher friends. And just share out all the good things that you love about the book, and recommend it to kids or parents or teachers that you think would particularly enjoy that book. So word of mouth, I think, and social media are also great ways. And a lot of those don't cost you anything. So when you find books that you love, give them all the love in all those ways. Anything you want to add to that, Ashley?
I think that is great. That, reviews are key. We really appreciate a good review of a book. It really helps. It helps other people who are interested in buying the book. You can read the synopsis and that's great, but it's really nice when you can see a written experience that somebody else has enjoyed the book. So we really appreciate good reviews. I think that's a great point. And yeah, shares on social media is fantastic. I love it. And library requests are amazing. The library purchases are huge in the book business. So anytime you request a book from a library, we really appreciate that as well.
So all the things, give them all the love in all the ways you can. Yes. And Ashley, thank you again for being here. What a fun conversation over a delightful book.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for watching.
And we will see you guys next time on PBJamz. Until then, keep the music playing. Bye, guys.
PBJamz, what a yummy treat. Jamming PBs all the time. PBJamz, jams, jams, jams. Picture books and jams. We'll see